Hello, today we are going to learn how to set up a tent as you will be doing in your introduction to camping class. All right, so getting started here, this is your tent bag. Everything that you will need in order to set up your tent is included in this bag. And if we remove the contents, it goes into a couple different pieces. One thing to note, your spare empty bags, you want to make sure that they are on you at all times. Don't just leave them lying around because the wind can take them and carry them off. Make sure you just take them and tuck them in a pocket so they don't go anywhere and you know exactly where they are. All right, so delving into the different pieces we have in this bag. First, we have a singular piece of fabric. This plain brown piece is your footprint. All right, this is not required on every single tent. It's basically personal preference. All it does is add an extra layer between you and the ground, keeping you just a little bit warmer, and it also keeps your tent a little bit cleaner, especially in sandy or muddy areas. All right, so for today's purposes, we will not be using a footprint, and you can use at your own discretion if you want to use your footprint or not. So I'm just going to set this off to the side. All right, and then this next piece of fabric that is brown, orange, and white is your tent body. So this is the actual piece of fabric that you will be sleeping in. So we can just lay that out anywhere on the ground. Now, when you are actually out here, I will tell you where would be a good spot to set up your campsite, and I'm just using this place as an example. All right, the last piece of fabric that we have is our rain fly. Now there is a right side out, which I will show you in a little bit, but this keeps you dry at night, especially if it rains or doesn't rain. It is generally good practice to always have this with you, whether you know the conditions are going to be good or not, because weather is unpredictable. All right, so for right now, we will set this off to the side, but we will use it in a couple minutes. All right, and then this last bag here contains actually another smaller bag inside, but this is your pole bag, which contains all the poles that you need in order to set up your tent, and a smaller stake bag, and this is how your tent actually stays in the ground. All right, so what I did right now is I just laid out my tent in a square just to get a rough estimate of where I want to put it. All right, and then I am not going to stake it yet, and the reason for that being, this shape right now is not the exact shape as the poles. The height brings the base in just a little bit, so if you stake it out right now and then put the poles on, it's gonna really constrict that tent and not make it the best long-term use for that. All right, so like I said, I'm just gonna keep the stakes on me so the bags don't float away in the wind, and I'm going to set up my poles. Now, most tents are starting to go into this standardized X component right now. So all you have to do is lay the two poles, out in an X formation on your tent. All right. And these poles are really easy to be put together. They have a cordage in the middle of them, linking them together. So all you have to do is put ends together. All right. And then after I have laid them out in an X, we'll get a zoom up of a corner here. So if we come in closer, if we are looking at this corner right here, you see a couple different pieces of webbing. Here you have your pin, which this will be inserted at the end of our pole right there. This loop is for your stake, and this buckle right here is for your rain fly. And I will go through these in a couple minutes. Right now, I'm just gonna put all 4 pins into the end of my poles and then clip up, and then you can actually see our tent rise. So when doing this, it is best to do it with 2 people. However, if you need to do it on your own, just be very deliberate on what ends you insert first. I have snapped tent poles before, and it's not fun. So, the last pin here. There we are. And then, since it is all pinned in, all I have to do now is just take my poles, make sure they cross, and then this black clip right here in the middle, you just take it and clip both your poles into it right there. And now on each side you have 4 little clips. You just want to clip all 16 in. 4 on each side, 4 sides equals 16. Pretty simple math for you guys. All right, and now you can see we have our actual tent almost ready to go for the evening, but we have our structure. So now is when we would normally stake down our tent. Now that we have the shape, you can see that the footprint size has moved in just a little bit. And now we want to make sure that we have tension on all 4 sides. The reason why we want tension is because if any 2 pieces of fabric are touching each other, that is an area where your condensation is going to collect and get you wet by morning. So, focusing on stakes, on how to properly stake your tent, it's dependent on what environment you're in. If you're in sandy or rocky soil, you're gonna have to use a different stake method than I'm gonna show you now on Iowa dirt. So, you wanna make sure that your stake is going in at a 45-degree angle towards your tent. If it is straight up and down, this causes a lot less resistance by wind, and if it's a really windy night, a vertical stake will move right up and out of this. So you want to make sure that you take this piece of webbing right here and go at a 45-degree angle in towards your tent corner. All right. And then you want to go to all 4 sides of that and repeat that as well. So I'm just going to do that quick, then we'll come back to this corner. And what I'm doing, I'm pulling each corner tight, so you can see I had to pull the tent a little bit this way to make sure that this is nice and tight. Pulling it tight, 45-degree angle, goes right in. All right. Pulling it tight, 45-degree angle. All right, so now we have our tent properly staked, but we're not done yet, so we're gonna keep our stake bag on us and come back to it. Next step is the rain fly, all right? So as I mentioned earlier, there is a right side out, all right? And on this tent, if you look, they have 2 doors on it, one on this side, one on the opposite side, and those doors correspond with the green sides on this rain fly. If you look at the branding on it, you can clearly read Alps Mountaineering, and you cannot see a zipper. If it's wrong side out, you will see this zipper. The reason why you shouldn't be able to see it is because this waterproofing cover right here, this waterproofing cover helps cover the zipper and keep you dry at night. So you want to make sure that you cannot see a zipper when you are camping. All right, so I'm just gonna buckle all 4 corners and then throw our rain fly on top. There's 1. 2, 3, and 4. And as you can see, there is quite a bit of tension between the tent body and the rain fly, and that is good. We don't want any of it touching. If it's loose, you can pull down on this buckle and create even more tension in there, and that is good to keep you dry at night. However, we're not done yet. All right, we need to still stake out our doors and do guy wires, and then we're done. So going back to our stake bag, we have 4 stakes left. 2 of these will be for the tent vestibule, and 2 of these will be for our guy wires. When staking out your doors, you want to make sure that you choose, on this tent, it will be the right side if you are facing it. So just poke it through the right one. And then the reason being, when you open this door, you still have access to inside of your tent. If you were to stake both and try to get in, you wouldn't get very far because this door can't move then in any direction. So make sure you stake one side of your tent body or your vestibule, and then you can have free access to your tent. All right, I'm gonna move on to our guy wires next. And the one step I am skipping right here is you want to make sure you stake out the other side of the door. All right, so these fancy wires are usually tangled, and that's just something you have to deal with, untangling them before you get set up for camping. And while you guys are waiting, you can pause the video, look around. What is one thing that I'm not doing properly right now? If you guys pause the video and figured it out, you can see that I put my stake bag directly on the ground. And you do not want to do that because it shows that the wind could take it and blow it around, and then I would be left without a stake bag. All right. Most tents come with more than 2 guy wires. On this one, we will only be using 2 for ventilation purposes, and that just gives us a lighter weight when backpacking. But in high wind situations, you have more guy wire spots right here, right along the pole line of the tent. All right, so zooming in close again. On our non-door side, we have this little piece of webbing right here. This is where our guy wire pokes through. So I like to open it up with a stake, and then it makes it a lot easier to feed your wire through. Then, like I said, we want to make sure everything is as tight as possible. I'm pulling it out all the way. I'm just going to do a simple square knot or 2 overhand knots to make sure it forms a knot on this end, and any knot will work as long as it won't move over the night. All right, so pull it out so it's super tight and you can see that little arc in the tent body. Push it in at that 45-degree angle again, and then everything looks good. And then I would normally do this on the other side. Last step is open up this ventilation shaft right here. This allows, when you're breathing out, all that hot air to rise up and come out this way, and make sure you don't get wet in the night. And there you go. That is how you set up a 2-person tent for your introduction to camping course.